was past midnight when I first saw her, twirling under a broken streetlight, her movements sharp, jerky, wrong. The cats were the first to notice her. They hissed, backed away, and vanished into the shadows. But I didn't run. I should have, because when she stopped dancing, she looked right at me. And that's when the music started. It was one of those nights when the air itself feels wrong. Still, heavy, like the world's holding its breath. I'd stayed late at work again. My co-worker, Anna, and I were walking home through the small European district downtown, cutting through the narrow alley behind St. Mary's Cathedral, a shortcut we'd taken dozens of times before. The cobblestones were slick from a recent drizzle, reflecting the orange glow of half-dead streetlights. We were both exhausted, but Anna kept humming under her breath. Some old folk tune her grandmother used to sing. I remember thinking how haunting it sounded, echoing between the stone walls. The city was asleep, not a single car. Just the sound of our footsteps and the faint rustle of leaves caught in the gutter. A few stray cats slunk through the shadows near the church steps. I tore half of my sandwich from lunch and tossed it to them. They sniffed at it, meowed softly, until suddenly they froze. Their ears twitched, their backs arched. And then, all at once, they hissed and bolted, vanishing into the dark. That's when I felt it, that creeping, electric sensation crawling up my spine. I looked up, and she was there. A woman stood about 30 feet ahead, just beneath a flickering streetlight. Her head tilted slightly to one side. She wore what looked like an old-fashioned skirt, layers of faded red and black fabric that fluttered as she moved. And she was dancing, slowly, awkwardly, like her limbs didn't quite belong to her. Her body jerked and twisted, her arms cutting sharp shapes in the air. It might have been beautiful if it hadn't been so wrong. At first, I thought she was maybe a street performer, drunk or high, or maybe practicing for some festival. But when the light flickered again, I caught her face. Her eyes were empty, like truly empty. There was movement, but no soul behind it. Her expression never changed, just this painted-on half-smile as her head twitched from side to side in rhythm with a song only she could hear. "Let's go," Anna whispered, clutching my arm. We turned back toward the cathedral, trying to keep our pace calm. The woman's footsteps didn't echo, only ours did. But I could feel her watching us. When we reached the corner, Anna risked a glance back. "She's following," she breathed. I turned, and she was still dancing, but now moving forward between the flashes of broken light. Her skirt dragged across the stones like it had weight, and with every few steps, her head snapped toward us in that puppet-like motion. We started walking faster, then faster still, until it turned into a jog. But she didn't slow. If anything, her dance grew faster, wilder, her arms slicing the air as she closed the distance. I heard Anna's breath catch. "Run!" We broke into a sprint. We ran. Our footsteps echoed like gunshots down the narrow lane. bouncing off the cathedral's stone walls. The air grew colder, unnaturally cold, and the streetlights behind us started to blink, one by one, as if following her rhythm. I didn't dare look back at first. I could hear her, though, the faint tap-tap-tap of shoes hitting cobblestone, perfectly synchronized, almost rehearsed. Then something else joined it, a sound that didn't belong. It was music, faint, twisted, like an old violin being played on rusted strings. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. From the alley, from the cathedral shadow, from the very air we were breathing. Anna stumbled, grabbing my arm. "Where's it coming from?" I didn't answer. My mouth was too dry to speak. When we reached the end of the alley, we burst onto the main street. Empty, silent, too still for midnight. The flickering light at the corner made everything look like it was underwater, the shadows shifting like liquid. That's when I looked back. She was there, standing at the mouth of the alley, her arms outstretched, her head slowly tilting from side to side. The music stopped, and then she smiled. It wasn't a human smile. Her lips peeled back too far, revealing perfect white teeth that caught the light like glass. Then, as if someone flipped a switch, she started moving again, faster, more chaotic, spinning, twisting, her skirt whipping around her legs like smoke. "Keep going," I yelled. We ran past the bakery, the post office, the empty bus stop. The whole town felt abandoned. No cars, no lights in the windows. Just the sound of that cursed melody chasing us through the dark. We took a left turn, aiming for the old bridge. The air smelled like rain and rust. The moment we reached the middle of the bridge, the music cut off again, replaced by silence so complete it hurt my ears. Anna doubled over, gasping. I can't keep running." I grabbed her shoulders. "We just have to make it to the station. It's 2 blocks. A sharp scraping sound cut me off, metal against stone. We both turned. At the far end of the bridge, illuminated by a dying street lamp, the woman appeared again, her feet barely touching the ground as she swayed. In her hand, she held something glinting, a long, thin knife, like a kitchen blade worn to silver. She raised it slowly, dragging the edge along the railing as she walked, danced, toward us. Sparks flickered as steel kissed concrete. Anna whimpered, "What does she want?" I didn't answer, because I was watching her eyes. They weren't empty anymore. They were hungry. We bolted again, sprinting off the bridge and through the narrow streets that twisted through the old district. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, but I didn't stop. Not until Anna screamed. I turned and saw her trip. She went down hard, her palms scraping against the cobblestones. I spun back to help her up, but before I could reach her, a pale hand shot out from the shadows and grabbed her ankle. It was her. The dancing woman pulled herself from the dark like a spider crawling from its web. Her head twitched, her body contorted, and in a blink, she was standing upright again, her knife gleaming in the dim light. "Anna!" I yelled, lunging forward. The woman's arm jerked, and she slashed, missing Anna's face by inches. Anna kicked, broke free, and scrambled behind me. I stepped between them, shaking. "What do you want from us?" She tilted her head again, the joints in her neck cracking audibly. Then, in a voice so soft it barely stirred the air, she whispered something in a language I couldn't understand. It sounded old, ancient, like a curse. Then she laughed. It was a child's laugh, bright, high, and wrong in every possible way. Anna screamed and ran. I turned to follow, but before I could move, the woman grabbed my wrist. Her grip was ice cold, her fingers impossibly long. She leaned in close, her breath hot and sour against my cheek, and whispered that same foreign phrase again. I tore free and sprinted after Anna. When I looked back, the woman wasn't following. She was standing in the middle of the street, still dancing. Her movements were violent now, her limbs jerking so hard I thought she'd break her own bones. We didn't stop running until we reached Anna's apartment. We slammed the door behind us, locked every window, pulled the curtains shut. My heart was still hammering in my chest as I leaned against the wall. Anna was shaking uncontrollably. "Who was that?" she asked. I didn't know how to answer. Someone who shouldn't exist. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. The flickering streetlight, the pale face, the knife tracing sparks against stone, and that smile. I tried to tell myself it was a nightmare, a hallucination, something born from exhaustion. But deep down, I knew better. Because around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of faint music coming from outside my window. It was the same warped violin tune, soft, distant, but undeniably there. I crept to the curtains and pulled them back just enough to peek out. There she was, standing across the street under the same flickering light, dancing, slowly, silently. And this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood 2 tall, faceless figures, dressed entirely in black. They didn't move. They didn't breathe. They just stood there, watching my window. The woman spun once, twice, then stopped. She looked straight at me and raised her hand. In it, she held something small and shining. Anna's phone. The next morning, sunlight felt like a lie. It poured through the blinds, too bright, too normal, as if the world hadn't shifted in the dark just hours before. Anna called in sick to work. I didn't blame her. Neither of us had slept. But when I texted her mid-morning, she didn't reply. At first, I thought she just needed rest. By noon, I started to worry. By 2, I was calling her phone every 10 minutes. Each time, I got the same thing. Ring, ring, voicemail. Until, around 3:17 p.m., she finally called back. I remember the exact second because I was sitting on my couch, phone in hand, staring blankly at the muted TV. When her name flashed across the screen, Anna, work, I almost cried with relief. I answered immediately. Anna, thank God. Where the hell have you? Static, then breathing. Slow, heavy, like someone pressing the receiver against their mouth. Anna? I asked again. Are you okay? The breathing continued. No voice, no words, just a faint rasping inhale and exhale, rhythmically, like music. Then, underneath the static, I heard it. That same cursed violin melody from last night. My chest went cold. Who is this? The breathing stopped. Then a voice spoke, but it wasn't Anna's. It was low, guttural, broken by some accent I couldn't place. Dance with me, it said. I froze. The call disconnected. For a long time I sat there staring at my phone, my pulse hammering in my ears. When I finally dialed back, I got nothing but a dull, monotone voice. This number is no longer in service. That didn't make sense. I had just talked to her. By sunset, I was at Anna's building. The front door was locked, but the landlord recognized me and let me up. He looked tired, confused. Haven't seen her all day, he said. When I reached her apartment, the door was slightly ajar. My gut turned. I pushed it open. The lights were off. The air smelled faintly of iron and something sweet, like perfume gone sour. The curtains fluttered from an open balcony door, and then I heard it. Faint footsteps behind me. I spun around. Nothing. I checked the bedroom, the kitchen, the bathroom. No sign of her. But on the living room floor, lying face up, was her phone. The screen was cracked. Blood smeared across the case. I picked it up, hands shaking. The home screen glowed dimly, revealing a single notification. One new video message. Unknown sender. My thumb hesitated, then tapped play. The footage was grainy, filmed in near darkness. I could barely make out shapes, walls, movement, shadows. Then the camera steadied, and I saw her. Anna. She was standing in the middle of a dimly lit street, barefoot, her hair wild and tangled, and she was dancing. Her movements were stiff at first, jerky, just like her. But then they grew faster, more desperate, until her body twisted in ways it shouldn't. Elbows bending wrong, knees snapping backward, her neck lolling to one side. She was sobbing as she moved. I could hear her crying under the music. And behind her, 3 figures. One of them, the woman, stood closest, smiling wide, spinning like a puppet whose strings were tangled. The other 2 loomed still and tall behind her, the same faceless shadows from the night before. At the end of the video, the camera shook violently, and the image blurred. Then the woman's face filled the frame, pale, too close, her mouth stretched into that impossible grin. She whispered one word, soon. The video cut off. I dropped the phone. That night, I didn't go home. I couldn't. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town and sat awake until sunrise, every noise outside making me flinch. I kept telling myself it wasn't real, that someone was playing a sick joke, maybe editing fake videos, messing with us. But the longer I stayed in that room, the heavier the air felt, like the walls themselves were pressing in. Sometime past midnight, I heard a faint knock on the door. 3 soft taps. I froze. The knocks came again. 3 slow, deliberate beats. My heart was racing now. I crept toward the door, silent. I didn't look through the peephole. I couldn't bring myself to. And then I heard it. That sound. That faint, off-key violin. I stepped back. My whole body shook. Then, from the other side of the door, a woman's voice whispered, "Let me in. Dance with me." The words were drawn out, melodic, almost sung.